Hi, Aisha.
Hi, Osiwe.
So, what does impact mean to you, and what is your impact?
What does impact mean to me, and what is my impact? Like the impact I've been able to achieve thus far?
Yes.
Whew, that's a deep question. What does impact mean to me? I think it's about paying it forward. Um, that's what it means to me. It's about trying to leave things better than you met it. Um, that's what impact means to me. And obviously that's quite a broad kind of definition. But yeah, it's just ensuring it doesn't have to be grand, but it's just making sure that it's at least better than and whatever kind of context that relates to, that's what impact means to me. In terms of how I have been able to achieve impact, to be honest, I think what I'm most proud about thus far is um post COVID, myself and an organization I'm affiliated with called Do Good, we helped build or expand the school in Makoko. So the school now has become this like token thing in the community, which I guess is great. It's great. It's great. But essentially we were there on the onset where they had used a church and a small space for their school. And this was just almost like a prep center, like a lesson, where the men and women of the community could put their kids there and then go about their trade for the day. And at least they would know that their children are at least somewhere safe. And now, at the time when we started, I feel like they had like 50 pupils, or just like children. And now they're like 200 plus. We have like a whole facility opposite because of the work we had done, and I spearheaded that initiative. A charity opened up next door, so there's now like a orphanage slash charity where they also use for like extra space. And now the school is now a proper school in that they have now, I think, graduated 4 kids, and they got like their living school certificate, so they've graduated them from actual primary school. So I would say that's what I'm most proud about in terms of the impact that I have made. But I think the work that I do on a day-to-day basis, I like, and I hope to believe that it's also making an impact. Essentially, I'm an impact advisor, and what that means is I help clients that have an impact mandate in critical sectors of our economy. So whether that be education, healthcare, power, and help drive investments in these sectors that can enrich the lives of the average Nigerian, the average African. The end goal of the work that I do is also kind of impact leaning, and that's the view. Yeah. Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of my podcast, What's Your Impact? Today we have Aisha.
Aisha, do you want to do a brief intro?
Yes, thanks, Osewa. My name is Aishat Raji. I am an impact advisor. Essentially, my background is in economics and finance. And in my free time, I love to box. I also do tennis, and here and there, I hike. Yeah. Nice. So, why would you say you said you have a background in economics and banking? So, and you mentioned earlier that you now focus on investment advisory for impact-driven projects. So, why would you say you moved from, or you kind of transitioned from regular traditional banking to impact-driven projects? That's a really good question. As cliche as it sounds, I feel like that path sort of kind of chose me. So for context and background, so I used to work in investment banking, did that for I think about 4 years plus, where I learned very critical skills, I would say, that have positioned me to just be more efficient in the work that I do today. But I think moving back, because I essentially had schooled in the UK and worked a little bit there. Moving back for me, it kind of felt like a clarion call, and particularly because I was always, still am very passionate about infrastructure and lack thereof on the continent. And I felt as though, there was a lot more work to be done to drive investments across, different sectors on the continent. And that was really kind of the pull factor that kind of enticed me into impact advisory, and also trying to see, how you can blend and how you can really bring that commercial lens to deals in a way that makes it interesting or worth the while of commercial investors, but still being able to leverage concessionary or donor funding to drive more impact. So I had like what I thought was a unique skill set because I had a lens of a commercial investor and trying to see how to bring that perspective to deals via essentially what is blended finance, to be able to then drive investment. So that's really kind of the pull and push factor that has led me to kind of what I do today, which is like impact advisory and investments.
I think that was very interesting. You saying that you have any background in
Mm-hmm.
finance, right? Traditional finance. You're kind of applying that to kind of pouring capital to infrastructure, impact-driven projects, especially in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. So, what would you say are the key skills or skills that you basically acquired that made you like thrive in what you're doing now?
Yeah. Okay. So to answer that question, I think the skills are majorly in like they're two pronged, right?
Okay.
You have technical skills and then you have soft skills. On the technical side, I think it goes without saying you have to have a problem solving mindset. So being able to disaggregate complex problems into simpler chunks and then thinking about a framework that can help approach the solution. So one of my bosses always says you don't have to know the answer off the bat, but it's having a structured approach towards finding the answer. So I would say problem solving is a really critical skill set. The other one I would say is around kind of financial analysis. So being able to kind of understand the financial indicators, being able to know your way around a financial model, know what is important to different types of investors, right? And being able to talk that talk, right? And so I would say financial analysis is another like really important. The other one, and I'll say maybe two more. The other third one I would say is presentation, but like on PowerPoints, because a lot of times as an advisor, you need to be able to, once you've disaggregated the problems, it's actually almost like a little bit of a value chain. So you get a situation that you're trying to like unlock capital into a particular project, you need to understand, okay, what are the hindrances to this deal happening? So problem solving, right? So being able to approach that. And then you do that, you run your numbers. So that's the financial analysis bit. You kind of understand your returns, whether it is a social return or like a commercial return, you do that analysis and you understand the implications. And then post that, it's then showing or communicating that to the client. And oftentimes, well, in my line of work, it's via PowerPoint. So being able to tell the story, actually call it storytelling, or slide writing. So being able to tell the story, making it very concise and insightful, such that even if someone did not do the analysis, someone did not sit in the problem solving, they can understand end to end, right? And then finally, I would say it's the communication. So one is like actually doing the slides, the other one is presenting, and those are, I would say, the kind of core technical skills. On the softer side, I would say it's really around like teamwork and collaboration, relationship building. There's a lot of work that is not siloed, that you have to like cross function both within the institution and even outside, right? So a lot of the deals may be syndicated, which just means it's not one person that is investing in it. So you have to bring different parties together. So that relationship building part is really important. I think underlying it, everyone knows like finance is quite a gritty industry. So it's also having grit and having resilience and being able to just kind of be dogged about it.
Nice. I think one thing that I kind of picked from what you said, and I saw in how you even answered my question was structured approach to thinking. Yeah, because you kind of structured the processes, right? From understanding what the client wants, to understanding what goes into the financial model, to bringing it out into like a slide, and then communication as well. Yeah. So I'd say that's one thing that I really picked, and that's one thing that is really kind of hectic, right? Because you kind of have different ideas. You know how, okay, you have a project or you have a problem to solve, and you do have different ways to think about it. Okay, I know how to solve this in this way, I know how to solve this in this way, but you have to kind of structure the processes you use to solve the problem, processes you use to basically provide the solution. Absolutely. That problem. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think you already mentioned relationship building. That's something I also wanted to touch on, like the importance of relationships in I guess your line of work or your career as a whole.
So yeah, I think that goes without saying. And I think it's definitely more important as you grow up the ladder. I think, being able to know who to turn to plug a particular problem or service offering is really important. I think also being able to just, because I think the challenge and bringing it back to like the whole kind of reason why this even makes sense, or the clarion call as it were, is that Africa needs like a coordinated collaborative approach to solve its investment deficit, right? So it's not going to be just one company that's going to do it. It's not going to be one investor. It's not going to be one solution that's going to solve everything. And so even from that kind of basis, you already realize that the key to really driving this and moving the needle is collaboration, right? And so that's kind of is what spirals or snowballs into relationship building. But I think also just being able to, like, for example, you go for a conference, right? Being able to identify potential partners, potential like familiar faces is like a huge value add. And when you come back, BD as well is another angle for that. So yeah, it's really important. You can't be a nerd in like my line of work, because you'll just be stuck like behind a computer and you won't go really far.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I know you mentioned a couple of things that are important, but how important would you say it is to have like a long-term career goal, right? Like even as you're doing what you're doing now, with all the skills that you acquired, okay, this is where I want to be in the next 1 year, 2 years. How important would you say it is to have like a longer term career goal?
You know what? I don't that question, I feel like I don't have a strong answer to.
Okay.
But what it is I do know is you cannot hit a target that you don't have. So I think it's a smart move to have a blueprint,
Okay.
where you have like an outline of what it can look like. But I think it's also smart to create room for variation, because as we know, things never go the way we want them to go, right? I could have sworn that I would end up in Goldman. No one could tell me anything. But if they offered me a Goldman opportunity today, I don't know that it will ginger me the way it would have like 8 years ago. So I think it's good to have like broad strokes. I think it's important to have broad strokes so you don't deviate, and you always kind of can come back to why you even started this in the first place. But I think that the world has become a global village, and I think that new opportunities that weren't existing like 10, 20 years ago are now existing. And so it's important to stay very like reactive to what the market is saying, and trying to see what opportunities you may now be interested in that you maybe didn't even know existed like 10 years ago. So long-term goals are good, but as long as you realize that they're not sacrosanct and it's okay for them to evolve and change, then that's cool. Yeah.
I think we've heard like a lot. I've gotten a lot of things in the personally from this conversation as well. So I think kind of the last question I have is around how you align your personal values to in the work you do. Obviously might be a bit, I don't know if it'd be easier, right? When you're doing impact driven projects, right? It's kind of helps you align your personal values. But how do you kind of navigate that, aligning your personal values with the work that you do?
For me, luckily, I feel like that has naturally been embedded
Okay.
in the work that I do. But I think ultimately, being able to just like I know work is still work at the end of the day, but for me, work is exciting. It's exciting because you see sometimes depending on the client that you've worked with. So one time I had worked with a tomato processing company in northern Nigeria, and my mom says, "Oh, I saw such and such, on the shelves, and then I bought it for the house." So, and you realize that, oh wow, if not from the funding from this investor into this company, it wouldn't be on the shelves. Like, it's that simple. So, like, it's never been a conscious thing. It's just kind of flowed through the work that I do. But in terms of like personal values, I just ensure that like my integrity is not in question, like that's in check. And in terms of like my stamp of excellence, like I have a high bar for performance, and I expect that from just the people that I work with. I try to make sure that like that is it, like that DNA is imprinted in whatever it is that I do, even if it's like a presentation or like a panel participation. Like I bring that to forth, so that's another thing that like I keep top of mind, that okay, the brand, like the Aisha brand, is like as consistent as it can be, at least. Yeah. So do say.
Yeah, I think I've obviously learned a lot. So do you have anything to say to like the audience, someone that is kind of trying to navigate, maybe someone that just graduated from, studying economics, finance, trying to navigate what to do next, maybe write CFA or start working in a small microfinance bank?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
I think what I want to say is like, number one, it's okay for your journey to look different from everyone else's journey. That's completely okay. And it doesn't mean you've done it wrong. The other thing that I want to say as well is it doesn't also matter how you start or where you start. Just start. I think a lot of people, out the bat, want to work for all the big companies, and that's great. But these big companies only have, so many opportunities, especially in such an economy right now that things are quite tight, right? Um, but I say all of this to say that it's all about like, how do you add value to yourself, no matter where it is you find yourself. So to your point, whether that is looking at doing a professional exam like the CFA, like the ACCA, whatever makes sense to you, depending on the path you're trying to chart, or even if it's like something like a skill. We talked about like financial modeling. There are now like certifications for financial modeling exams that are actually quite sought after, right? So it's also thinking, okay, whilst I'm still at AB and Sons, can I, do the AFM modeling exam or something like that to continuously ensure that I'm positioning myself for when that opportunity comes, right? Because I think, time and chance, how do you say, it happens to everyone, but it doesn't really wait for anyone. So it's about making sure that as best as you can, you are, as best positioned or prepared for when that time comes or when that chance comes to grab it. Like, that's what I would say. I know practically as well, like trying to like reach out to people who have gone ahead of you and walked the walk is always helpful. I definitely had like a few people that looked back and pulled me up, right? So I think that it's always important to also try to see, and not in an annoying way. I think a lot of people do it in very inorganic, annoying ways. But I think it's also trying to see, okay, who can be this person for me that can pull me up and show me the ropes. And I think if you always ask for guidance and feedback, it's kind of hard to like, deviate from the path. So that's what I would say. Yeah, like little tidbits. I haven't figured it all out yet, but those would be like little tidbits. Yeah.
Okay, I think we've come to the end of this very insightful episode. Thank you, Aisha, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our social media pages to stay updated. Thank you. Bye.